Hello and good morning, good evening and good night, wherever in the world you are. I'm Diana Lopez. I'm the advisor on cities and local government here in UNDP in New York, where it's very cold. I'm going to give just welcome to this webinar. I'm going to give some logistics, housekeeping notice first. So first of all, we have interpretation for this webinar. Una de interpretación en francés en español. Tenemos interpretación al español. Pueden ustedes seleccionar el pequeño mundito que tienen abajo de sus pantallas y seleccionar el idioma, español, inglés o francés. Pour la traduction en français, vous pouvez utiliser le petit globe mondial que vous avez en bas de vos écrans et sélectionner le français. So if you want to continue in English, since we are going to have speakers in Spanish today with us, you can choose interpretation in English, and like that you will hear in English the whole webinar. And just for your information, we are recording this webinar, so it will be posted in YouTube, but it's not broadcasted live. We will edit and made available in our YouTube channel, SDG Local Action. For participants following online, we have a chat. You can make questions, introduce yourself, share information about initiatives that you are driving locally, or commenting on what is said in the webinar via the chat. So welcome to this webinar today. We are facing how to prevent traffic accidents in cities. This is part of our SDG Solutions series that we are conducting here at UNDP, the United Nations Development Programme, where we want to identify concrete solutions that local governments, cities, regions, counties, provinces, what we call in the UN local governments, are leading and driving to make Agenda 2030 a reality. Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, were approved in 2015, and local governments are leading and making this a reality city by city. We face this kind of very concrete solutions because we want to also visualize how this Agenda 2030, you can see here in our colors and the wallpaper of this webinar, all the SDGs. We believe that cities are really believing in this agenda and making it a reality with concrete solutions. So today we want to face this very concrete question of traffic accidents. This happens we'll all live in cities or have been in a city. And of course, there are road accidents in big roads connecting cities, but everywhere in the world, local governments are in charge. They have a direct responsibility over traffic management. I always like to start with a human story and a personal story. And I lived in Africa for 10 years. I lived in Nairobi, and while visiting a friend of mine in Norway, in Oslo, because it's very dark in the winter, they have this kind of reflectant tags for children. So when you send your children to school, you put this kind of tag in the arm or in the backpack of the child. So it flashes when the car comes. So the car can see the children because normally they're smaller, and maybe they are wearing darker clothes. So this reflectant helps the cars to identify the children. So many times I thought that will be a very easy, cheap, and quick solution for African cities when there is very little lighting in the streets for cars to see pedestrians, for example. So this was an example of a very maybe cheap solution that could be bought out even by mothers or by some private company who wants to give some advertising and give this little reflectant for children. So that's an easy solution, but most of the traffic management is based also in more complicated solutions. Many of them pass by investing in infrastructure, in better sidewalks, in bike lanes, and these are very expensive. Local governments always have problems to fund infrastructure, also because many of the times, in order to get all that amount of money, which are big amounts of money, they have to incur into loans, into debt, and then, of course, there is the question with the central government, if they allow the local governments to have this kind of investments or not. So infrastructure between the flag reflectant for the child and the big infrastructure, there is a difference in organization capacities, in access to fund, in capacity also to implement that infrastructure. But wherever there is, local governments are finding innovative solutions to prevent traffic accidents in cities. And of course, the local governments being the closest to the citizen, they have also a big influence in individual behavior, because at the end of the day, traffic accidents happen because of people that are driving, walking, cycling, skating, running a boda boda or a tuk-tuk or a bus. At a certain point, it's people. Maybe one day we will also people flying around the cities. And also at the end of the day, it will be cities and local governments who have to regulate, who have to try to put some rules so we can live together in cities. But of course, as usual, local governments are very creative and innovative and are always at trying to find solutions to serve the citizens. And we are going to have today two solutions from two different countries. So the first is Istanbul in Turkey, and the second will be Buenos Aires in Argentina. So we are very excited to have with us the two cities represented to exchange experience and share with us how they are trying to prevent traffic accidents in cities. So our speakers today are Ege Nasuh Günayar. He is the chief of the Transportation Management Center in Istanbul, Turkey. Hello, Ege, and welcome. Thank you for being with us today. And as a second speaker, we have Mariana Sanguinetti, who is the director of the Mobility and Road Safety Observatory for Transportation at the Secretary of the City of Buenos Aires in Argentina. So welcome and thanks for your time today. We are going to start with Ege. So over to you, Ege, to tell us what you are doing in Istanbul to protect your citizens and avoid getting them into trouble. Over to you, Ege.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ege Nasuh Günayar. I was born in Izmir. I studied electronic technologies and also public administration. After my graduate, I worked at Izmir Metropolitan Municipality for 10 years, responsible for traffic signalization. In 2020, I joined Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality as a manager for signalization. Also, since 2022, I have been the chief of the Transport Management Center at Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, Traffic Director. Our main focus is traffic management, intelligent traffic systems, and international collaboration projects related to smart transportation technologies. I will be say our technologies, who we are. As Istanbul Municipality Traffic Directory manage the city traffic using modern technologies, providing real-time information to the citizens and drivers. This management center was established in 1997. What is the challenges in Istanbul? Istanbul is the biggest city of either Turkey and Europe. 20 million population with included tourists. What is Istanbul challenges? I'm saying again, Istanbul, the biggest city of either Turkey and Europe, 20 million population with include tourists, 34 million daily trips, 2 million intercontinental trips, Asia and Europe, daily 7 million vehicles in our road network. So what is our vision? Our vision is provide more modern, safe, accessible, and efficient urban mobility to Istanbul. We make event management to optimize traffic, prevent accidents, and provide real-time updates. How do we work? First of all, sensing the city. We have some sort of equipment such as traffic sensor, meteorological sensor, traffic monitoring cameras to monitor our road network in real time. In addition, we are collaborating with TomTom and B-Mobile for additional floating car data in chains our data definition. Also, we have a call center team to directly take feedback from the citizens. Data is most important factor for understanding the systems. If you don't have the data of the system, you don't have the system. We securely store and protect the collect data. We work anchor into ISO 27001 standard. We use SQL Server to create meaningful data tables, concrete insights, and providing value-added data. Also, we work and only share the data according to KVKK legacy. After create the value-added data, we provide this data to our smart traffic services, website, and application. Our primary smart service are IBB Jet Traffic application, Traffic Density Map. You can access with this map to traffic situation and density, traffic cameras, planned and unplanned incident announcements, parking lots, weather signalization system, point of interest, electric charging station on all around of Istanbul. Also, we have service like VMS Smart Parking System to show the nearest parking lots, call center, social media. We were active use Twitter. We have a Twitter account and the official website for same announcement. Our other objective is event management. By using our traffic density map and traffic camera observations, we search for any traffic accident for all around of Istanbul manually. 2724. Firstly, let's talk about traffic optimization operation. We have 2,570 signalization junctions. You can see the types and their numbers on the right side of the screen. We have autonomous traffic lights systems such as ATAK and dynamic signalization system. Also, we have manual or semi-automatic systems like pre-time or demand actuated traffic lights. We can manipulate the timing of these systems on our internal softwares if we need. One of the reasons of event management operational accident, we use VMS to inform to drivers, passengers about travel time, emergency situation, weather, planned or unplanned traffic accidents as real time. Additional, these notifications are also shared on social media accounts, website, traffic density map, and our mobile application. If any cars strayed on the road, we had to these citizens. As additional information, we have 8 tunnels and 9 underpasses. Also, we have their all traffic responsibilities. In addition, mobile and fixed electric traffic enforcement system anonymously or semi-automatically detect traffic violations which are listed on the below table. Some of their types: red light violation, safety line violation, overspeed violation, wrong way, and etc. You can see all the electronic traffic enforcement system type and their numbers in the table on the slide. On the other side, let's talk about what are doing to improve ourselves to reach our aims. As Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, we have been working on projects. You can see some simple projects on the screen. In some, we have undertaken various projects and legacy studies. Lastly, we were members of EIT Urban Mobility, DOT, and Horizon Europe programs. These projects aims to develop new ideas, SAMs, and technologies, or even legacy studies on ITS technologies, urban mobility, its safety, sustainability, and more with the support of European Commission and its foundations. One of our latest EIT project is AI for Life. We focused optimization of the signalization system by using AI-powered algorithms. The AI then optimizes traffic signals to improve follow, reduce delays, and change safety. As I mentioned at the beginning, we aim to achieve a scalable, efficient, and safe urban mobility with minimal losses and incidents by integrating smart technologies, mobility solutions, and innovative approaches. In this direction, we can count our key short-term ability goals like AI supports, accident predictions, autonomy detection by camera and detector, sensor, digital twin of city, AI support traffic measurement, and traffic protection. In sum, we can say that by actively monitoring traffic across Istanbul, we deliver real-time information to citizens, drivers, and passengers, helping ensure and safer, smoother, and efficient transportation systems. And by using intelligent transport system technology, AI innovations, data science, and our extensive experience, we aim to continuously improve our abilities to create smarter, more inclusive, accessible, sustainable, and safer urban mobility. Okay, I am okay. Thank you.
Really, thank you for your efforts in sharing with us the interesting experience of Istanbul. We also have...
First, sorry, my English, it is not perfect. I try to explain all systems.
You did very
Sorry,
well.
everyone.
It was loud and clear. But we also have a colleague from Istanbul who is Damla Silasoglu, who is going to...
If you have any question, she can answer your question.
Exactly. So we have her to support you with the English question and answer. So I'm going to invite now Mariana from Buenos Aires to ask you a follow-up question on your presentation. Over to you, Mariana. And then Damla will assist Ege with the English response through the Spanish because we are doing Turkish, Spanish, English, but we will get to understand each other. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I wanted to know if you could tell us a few more about the AI-supported accident black spot prediction that you are aiming to achieve in your future plans. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. I would like to explain that. And how we collect, first of all, I would like to explain to how we collect accident data in Istanbul. And first of all, accident data in Istanbul is collected by is collected by different institutions due to the division of responsibilities between central and local governments. And the main institution responsible for this is the Security Department of Ministry. Now, we are not provide that. So where the traffic police officers collect accident data and identify black spots, and these identify locations are reported to the municipality every year. So we are getting this information, this black spot data to get an information. We are collecting. In addition, traffic operators at the Traffic Management Center monitor live traffic camera feeds to detect accidents. For instance, as we mentioned with the presentation, our traffic operators can real-time manage the camera. So we are managing 720 for all of the day. And when an accident is detected, the relevant teams are immediately informed to ensure a quick response. And at the same time, all accidents records are stored in our intelligent transportation system, like as we mentioned before the presentation. And this data is so crucial for improving traffic safety and making necessary decisions to reduce accidents. So I will explain. Recently, with the support of EIT Urban Mobility, we have a project, and we successfully completed with the AI-based smart intersection management. In this project, we analyzed past intersection data and developed artificial intelligence models. So these models help to predict traffic congestion, and we have achieved successful test results at selected intersections, and we get an enhanced to road safety we have achieved before. So now we want to aim that apply this AI-based approach to accident data by analyzing past accident records with machine learning algorithms. We plan to create models that will identify high-risk areas and block spots. We can manage to quickly and take preventive measures to reduce accidents, and we want to enhance our traffic safety and reducing traffic congestion. It will help this system. We are considering of that. So I hope this answer is good for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Damla. I have a question from the chat for you. So how does real-time data help improve the traffic safety? Could you provide some of the results? So basically, what was happening before you had the real data system, and how is now that you have the real data system? Can you see a difference?
Yes, we are collecting real-time data. Also, we are collecting historical data. In real-time data, we are managing quickly, and we can solve the live traffic conditions in Istanbul. So this is important to us. Within the historical data, we can get an AI-based machine learning algorithms. We can take tests to make and understand meaningful analysis, and we can predict within this our historical data. So it will help to our improve traffic safety, and we are working on that. Another question, could you provide some results? For now, I have no information, but we are testing with our 3 junctions, and within live traffic conditions and within the historical data, we create a dashboard to our traffic operators can do managing to help them. So if you want, I can share with our EIT projects after that.
Yes, because it's very important what you say about historic So how, because many times the cities are running to do new things, and we forget how things were before, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, but maybe 5 years ago. And I think that this kind of comparison, when cities innovate and put a very complicated system in place to show the citizens, you know, how was the situation before and how we have improved, because otherwise we know the citizens always want better, always they're asking for something new. So I think that this kind of showcasing how the situation was before and how is now, it's important, but of course we are all very busy running after the next thing. So now it's data, technology, and sometimes we forget to communicate, you know, how many accidents are we preventing thanks to these new systems that cost a lot of money, effort, and organization, because also we understand that you have to coordinate with different departments in the city, no? So this is my second question. You don't have, the transportation never is one department and you run the transportation. You have to work with urban planning, with security, with, I don't know if you have like some kind of festival department when you have big events, concerts, etc. So how is your experience working with other city departments?
Well, actually, we are managing in traffic management centers to traffic conditions, but we are always connections with the, as you mentioned, relevant units. So we are always connecting each other in real time. For instance, I can say fire stations or emergency. We are always connecting each other, and so we are always corresponding, I can say like that. So in Istanbul, I would like to say we have 16 million people lives in here, and we have 34 million trip every day. So this is really huge numbers, and we are managing 724 in all day, and this is really critical numbers. And we want to enhance our systems to get new projects developed, for instance. So yes, I would like to expand that.
Thank you, Damla and Ege. We are going to give the floor now to Mariana Sanguinetti to share with us what are the actions that they are doing from Buenos Aires in Argentina. Over to you, Mariana.
You are welcome. Thank you for questions.
What the city of Buenos Aires has been developing in the last few years and all the actions concerning road safety have to do with a series of road safety plans. Last year, we launched the third one. Each one of them is drafted considering the assessment of the previous program, the actions, the goals, and the last one is related to the decade of action for road safety, the reduction of at least 50% of victims, casualties, or fatalities. In the city of Buenos Aires, we plan and we managed based on a safe system, and the interpretation that the city has adopted when it comes to road safety has to do with health. The objective that we have are related to reducing the amount of fatalities, injured people in road accidents. Within that framework, we have drafted proposals and the follow-up of the actions concerning road safety. As for the pillars on which we base our plan is road safety management, regulations related to speed, maximum speed, the infrastructure to have safer infrastructures with physical interventions to reduce traffic or the acceleration in different speed limits, the segregation of public transport, cargo or bikes, pedestrian in the transfer areas. And the third pillar has to do with the the control of attitudes, the enforcement and safe vehicles to control drivers and safe vehicles. And then the axis that has to do with communication, education, and training of road users. We have communication activities. We work with journalists who convey information. We work with schools on road safety. We educate road users who have committed violations, and we work with different stakeholders that are relevant to road safety from a safety perspective. We develop our policies. I'm going to describe 3 examples of actions and policies, and we have developed different things, how we use technology to achieve our goals, to reduce the number of fatalities and injured people. We have a map here. We use geo-referenced information to detect black spots or areas where we can improve infrastructure to decrease road accidents. This is a map of the city of Buenos Aires with the fatalities of last year, 2023, and the previous years as well. I'm going to give you an example of a modification of the infrastructure, electronic enforcement, and artificial intelligence tool to improve our diagnosis. This is an example of an avenue. There are 2 avenues that you can see here. We assessed certain modifications that we performed to see how this impacted on the speed of cars in the city of Buenos Aires. We have seen that the main actor related to fatalities is speeding. So all the initiatives to reduce the speed of cars are going to have positive effects to reduce the severity of car accidents. So what you can see at the top is an avenue. We have removed 1 lane and we have added a bike lane, which is segregated for cyclists, and there are 2 free travel lanes. And what we did to assess whether this had worked or not to reduce speeding cases was to compare with an avenue that had not been intervened. This is the one at the bottom with a similar geography, and we kept it. We compared them, and the result that we had is that as the Jorge Niverio Avenue, which had been intervened, the travel speeds are safe. We have 2% of vehicles over that speed, which is considered to be safe, which is 50 kilometers an hour. And we have a control avenue, a reference, a baseline, the one that had no interventions, had an increase in the same period, which was significant. So what we concluded is that the intervention to the infrastructure was useful to keep cars traveling at safe speeds. And this can be easily compared to the other avenue where cars increased their speeds over 50 kilometers an hour. The second example has to do with the assessment of the new electronic enforcement system. We followed the same methodology. We have an intervened avenue where we placed a speeding camera, and then we have an avenue with a similar geography. This is the double lane avenues. So they have the same geography, the same layout, and one of them was intervened and the other one was not, when there is no camera to detect speeding cases. And the result has been lower, partly because we had a very good starting point. There were not many cases of speeding, they were reduced from 2 to 1%, and in the case of the non-intervened avenue, the decrease was lower. These measurements were performed with radars. It's around 3,000 per point. So even though these reductions may be little, but they are significant when it comes to statistics. And finally, the example that we have as for the technology that we use to improve road safety is how we use technology to improve our diagnosis. And this is related to what you were saying in Istanbul, how to manage large amounts of data, how to consolidate different sources. It's a challenge that we have at the observatory, how we take from different sources the information that is more relevant to make decisions. The case that I'm going to show you was useful to improve the times and the costs for the classification of events or accidents. Before this process, before this AI tool, we had a manual process to classify accidents. We had a police record database. We received information which was a text describing the accident, but this was manual. So our process was reading all those details, those summaries, 10,000 accidents a year. We read them personally and we classified them to see the participants, the victims, cyclists, the public transport, motorcyclists, which is key to design public policies. We had to read all this information. This took a long time. It was expensive to get, and it took a long time to classify. It's very important to have real-time information, as was mentioned in the case of Istanbul. This is private information, so it has been blurred. We have a summary, so we teach AI with 40,000 summaries. This was the input that we used to train AI tool to do the same thing that we did, read the summaries and to obtain the fields that we were interested in, to define whether it had been a road accident or not, the victims, the counterparties, the number of victims of that accident according to the text, and the identification of people, which is what we use to cross other sources. We have to identify the person so as we do not count the accident twice. We trained the AI tool to do the same thing that we did. And as a result, we have now a shorter process where we send. This is confidentiality is secured. This is police records, they're confidential. So the AI tool does everything that you can see at the bottom. It reads the summaries, it takes the instructions, it performs the process, it infers the results that we have, and it conducts processing because we have all our system with that format. And then we have by email an Excel file with information that has already been classified. The results of this processing in terms of quality, we compared the manual process and the AI process, and we can see different figures, but in terms of time and costs, the reductions have been incredible. We have a 94% reduction of time reduction, 24 hours with AI, with high quality standards. And as for the costs in manual processing, as for the personnel working on this, it was $2,504, and the processing with AI was $60. So this implies a 97% reduction in costs. So these are the results to improve our diagnosis. At the observatory, we conduct many diagnoses. So this is the tool that we have developed with these results, and we are planning to continue using it, applying it to different sources. We started working on a police source. We have a health source, reading medical reports to see the severity of injuries, to understand the severity of these accidents, because sometimes you have mild injuries and sometimes you have seriously injured people or fatalities. So in this year, we are planning to extend this tool to teach it how to read medical records to obtain the results related to the severity of this accident. So I think that would be all. So thank you very much for your time. I have a question as for speeding. We focus on why people speed, and people speed because they like to go fast. And there is nothing you can do about it. But I'm thinking about mothers taking their children to a dentist appointment, to school, and they're running late. So sometimes we focus on the speed of cars instead of focusing on the time that it takes people to get somewhere. Because what it matters, it doesn't mean that you're going to get faster if you go faster, if you drive faster. I focus on this. Do you have any strategy to communicate that the speed has to do with the time that you get there, because you're going to find traffic lights. So if I'm a mother in Buenos Aires and I have to do the shopping, take my children to school, you have to do 1,000 things. So you have to run. You have to explain to them, if you slow down, you're going to get there faster. So do you have a strategy to convey this? So you may end up hurting your children at the back seat, or you have to think about other people, the people that use the city. So how do you communicate this complex problem? But it's very simple at the same time.
Yes, there have been campaigns in the city, also at the national level. It's a federal country, you know, Argentina. I understand Turkey Aid too, but there were campaigns as to taking all precautionary measures. And what you mentioned, Diana, if you speed up, it doesn't mean that you're going to get faster. You're going to take greater risks. So there was a recent one about someone going to a hospital. A woman was in labor, going to deliver a baby. So you really need to speed up. They're very anxious at that moment. So they used the seat belt. They allowed people. They gave them the pass. So that campaign was recent. I remember this one. And what we suggest as a safe system, what we propose is that people who drive are going to continue making mistakes, or well, may not be mistakes, but people who drive, we cannot, of course, there are communication campaigns, that's one of the pillars, but we cannot rely only on that, on expecting people to internalize safe movements, safe conducts, or to internalize these kinds of behavior. We have lots of accounts. Even though you may get to 80 kilometers an hour in an avenue, you're going to get there at the same time, even if you go to 40 kilometers an hour, because the time in a city has to do with congestion, with traffic lights. There is no other variable to take into account. If you go 80 kilometers an hour for 500 meters, you're not going to get there earlier or faster. You have all the numbers, all the accounts. So the approach that we have is to communicate, to raise awareness about this. But we need to have a system that is safe in general. And in many cases, the pillar that shows the evidence is the enforcement. There is awareness, they need to understand why they have to do things, but we cannot rely on them understanding and incorporating this. This has to be an area devoted to enforcement and an area devoted to infrastructure as well. There are streets, of course. And there is a phrasing that if your car requires you to go to speed up, if you have 12 lanes in a street, so you may be invited or compelled to go faster, but in different centers or hubs, you have physical barriers. Everyone here knows them. They're not expensive. You mentioned this, and they force drivers to drive safely because they have no other option. So there are interventions in infrastructure. So that's why it's a safe system. You need to raise awareness for people. You need to penalize if they do not do that. You need to re-educate people as regards drunk driving. You need to re-educate these people so that they can understand the importance of this. And you need to have the infrastructure so that in the places where you can do this, cars may not go to speeds higher than the safe ones. So it's an assembly of things. It's a balance, it's an equilibrium. Damla, do you have any question?
Hello again, and yes, I have a question about actually bus lanes. I actually in Istanbul we have no bus lanes, and we want to launch to initiative about this bus lanes topic. So I would like to ask that could you share your experiences regarding the impact of bus lanes on road safety, techniques for preventing violations and their effects of urban traffic? And what challenges have you encountered in this area, and what results have been achieved? And does artificial intelligence play a role in your work related to bus lanes? So I'm curious about that topic. Thank you so much.
The city of Buenos Aires has exclusive lanes since the year 2009, if I'm not wrong. So the experience has been favorable. The reports have been made on the main lanes have shown reduced accidents. So when we made these assessments, we do not do this on the street, but on the area of influence where the buses circulated through different avenues or streets. So we collected all this information and it was redirected to these lanes. So the reductions have got to 9% in some areas in the total number of accidents in the analysis that we have performed. And as regards the challenges, well, first, we had to do with the resistance, local resistance. And then we have shown resistance by people from the stores, because if they do not have a bus stop, they were not going to be able to sell. And the analysis of service, if this has been more qualitative, if you want, and they have had good results too. Initially, when we had a good result, then we did not have so much resistance. But until we got that first good result, there was quite a lot of suspicion by drivers what the result would be, because there were 2 lanes less. And what we showed is that when you segregate, that you know, because we work in this area, but in practice, when you segregate the different kind of vehicles and you segregate speeds, all the traffic tends to flow much better. So if the buses were going through a lane and the cars through another, that was favorable, that was beneficial for traffic of both kind of vehicles. And finally, in terms of artificial intelligence, we have not applied much on the lanes. There is an electronic enforcement system, so it was more agile for the violations of non-permitted vehicles entering the exclusive lanes. Not the main ones, but peripheral ones where there's not so much traffic, and there are violations here. So we have improved with this new electronic enforcement system the development of violations with the cameras. They're not manual, but they're with cameras of this kind of invasion of exclusive or preferential lanes. But artificial intelligence has not been applied to this area yet. But
Thank
well,
you
that
so
would
much.
be it.
Thank you so much. Is there so much violations yet?
We had 180,000 violations last year. Violations occurred at certain points, but in the new system, we got this number, this figure, 180,000 violations a year for this time of violations, specifically speaking.
We have less than 10 minutes for questions from the public, and we have quite a lot of questions. So I'm going to start with a question to Istanbul. So how does Istanbul transport system ensure compliance with data privacy regulations? I think this question can be also asked by Buenos Aires. So what happens with collecting and storing traffic data, and what is the challenges that you are getting in terms of data privacy? So Damla, I think that Ege is also responding in the chat.
As I think there's a questions in here in Istanbul, the privacy regulation. I can answer that. We are collecting this data 2 weeks, and after that we are deleting this all of the traffic monitoring camera systems. So in the real time we have published and sharing the live camera, yes, but it's legal to GDPR. So we are not focusing too much within the live camera. So it's legal to GDPR, yes.
And in Buenos Aires, Mariana, how do you deal with data privacy?
Yes, like Eje mentioned, in the city of Buenos Aires, the information is not public. And we received judicial orders or requests from the courts as regards injuries or fatality. So in those cases, we share information, but it's not publicly accessed with our sources. Even within the government of the city of Buenos Aires, we have agreements for confidentiality to deal with all sensitive information as regards accidents. So we work with accidents, not so much with information of traffic data. Continuing with topical issues, is there any questions about autonomous vehicles and the intelligent infrastructures, and how is Buenos Aires first, and then the same questions for Istanbul? So how are you in Buenos Aires facing the autonomous vehicles and all the innovation in infrastructure in general in relation to the safety, road safety plans? Well, the truth is that in Buenos Aires, we do not have regulations for autonomous vehicles. The thing is that this is a regulation that you start at the national level, at the country level, Argentina. It's not something that the city can do by itself. The regulations about vehicles are all at a national level. So it is the national government that need to set forth these regulations. But so far, as far as I know, this topic has not been dealt with at a national level for autonomous vehicles.
Damla, how are things in Istanbul related to autonomous driving and smart infrastructures?
Well, yes, in Istanbul we have intelligent transportation systems, but these are not connected with the autonomous vehicle. But we want to target about that. We call them V2X, vehicle to junctions, vehicle to infrastructure. And we are trying to, for now, in Istanbul, new roads. So we want to enhance this within the intelligent transportation systems. We want to get an access within autonomous vehicle to get a deduction with each other. But for now, we have no these systems.
We have two more questions and then maybe we are like 3 minutes late. So for both cities, the first question comes from Venice regarding cycling routes. Even in the city of Venice, there are no bicycles, but they have also the part in Italy where they do. So the question is, what is your experience with implementing bicycle lanes? What is where the drivers are complaining a lot when you open a bike lane? And then how you get the citizens to agree to bike lanes. Is there a question? I've seen it in Istanbul. I've seen it in the presentation in Buenos Aires. Let's start by Istanbul. Do you have bike lanes in Istanbul, and what has been your experience?
Yes, we have bike lanes in Istanbul. We have 500 kilometers. Yes. We want to enhance our bike lanes to 2030, around 1,000 kilometers. We have a huge target in bike lanes. But in Istanbul, in the geographically for the issues we have 7 hills in Istanbul. It's not possible to establish everywhere. But we want to enhance that our sustainable transport moves to Istanbul. And we have launched our sustainable urban mobility plan. And we are target that to enhance that systems. So, we are taking care of the active mobility, for instance, pedestrian. We want to enhance to pedestrian areas too. And we have we are enhance our pedestrian areas too, and we have a parklet systems. It is the parking pedestrian stops, we call them, and we create pedestrian areas, much more confident area to citizens. So yes, I can say like that.
Thank you. And Mariana, how is for you regarding bike lanes?
The city of Buenos Aires since the year 2009 has promoted bicycle use. We had 300 kilometers of bicycle lanes segregated in the streets. And in effect, there have always been questions. In general, the bicycle lanes are in lanes that were used for parking. Sometimes not parking, but unauthorized parking. So it was a lane that was not enabled for circulation. But anyway, as Carla mentioned, if you explain the advantages, if you give this kind of data, you may face some resistance. And we have tried with the territorial planning and management, with the community centers, talking to them. And in some cases, we have not been able to implement the cycle lanes where we wanted to because of this kind of resistance. And also on the contrary, last year, there was a reorganization plan where we tried to prioritize some cycle lanes that were highly used to improve the infrastructures, to widen them, because we have congestions in the cycle lanes too. And some cycle lanes were removed because of changes, they were redundant. So the traffic was detoured to other places. So we needed to decide to remove some kilometers of cycle lanes. And there was resistance to this by people who used their bicycles. So either way, you may find resistance. That's part of public policy management when you're close to the beneficiaries or the people who are affected by this. So we need to do some work on the ground to try to reduce this resistance, to be able to talk, to continue with urban planning, because we know that this works. But of course, there is resistance. Thank you very much, Mariana, Damla, Enge.
We have no more time today, even if I feel that we could keep discussing for another 1 hour or two, but this is the time we have today, and also for the interpreters. Thank you very much. In very briefly, in 2 minutes, I'm going to give some ideas that have not as much as a conclusion as ideas that I think that other cities could benefit from these two super interesting experience today. First of all, take this as a cloud of ideas. It doesn't have a relationship necessary with each other. But for example, there was mention about the role of meteorology, which I found very interesting from Istanbul. Like, you know, you have to take care. It's not the same when you are driving dry that when it's raining. So I like really this question of the focus on meteorology from Istanbul. I also like this question that you need the data to understand, because there is no system without the data. Before, public policies were more like feeling, I have an idea, the mayor has an idea. Now local governments run much more on systems that are based on data, which is at the end the reality, even if it's not all the reality is taken by the data, but it's very important to understand the reality of what happens in our cities. I also focus on these 2,570 junctions that Istanbul has. That's a lot of junctions, and every junction is a potential accident. So I guess that in the morning you wake up thinking about where is going to happen in all these 2,500 junctions.
Safety first.
Yeah, each one is a problem for you, I guess. So I hope that you do some yoga to relax, because at the end it's this question of people working in local governments. They feel really responsible and close to the problems that happen in their cities. I also heard a lot about this technology, of course, AI, data twinning, city twinning, and these expectations that are generating in our citizens. And also how these expectations then they have to make into tools that serve to solve problems in cities. It's not always easy. Also, we heard that high-risk areas in the city, not the city, can be treated equally, because there are some places where we know accidents are going to happen, and some other places where we can a bit more relaxed in the mornings, because they are, you know, so the city is not an homogeneous entity, but has this kind of red light places where we know problems and accidents are going to happen. We also mentioned this importance about learning from history and to see the impact of our innovation, and having this kind of dashboards to visualize how we are improving what we are doing, how well are we going with this kind of public policies. Then from Buenos Aires, we have also this question of plan, evaluate and plan. So look back about what you have done, but create a new plan and plan to keep progressing and improving the lives of people. This focusing on saving lives. At the end of the day, traffic creates casualties, and cities need to focus about this kind of preventing casualties and preventing injuries. We heard also that speed is still a problem, but we heard also very good news about bike lanes being congested. So when you it's like this old movie, when you open a park, the people will come. So when you put bike lanes, the people use them, and then the city have to even increase them because they become congested. I think this is a very good news for sustainability and mobility and health and improving the lives of people, because riding a bike is also a pleasure and takes your mind out of things. So I think with that, maybe a last comment on how the responsibilities of the people and the responsibilities of the municipality needs to balance, because at a certain point, driving or walking is a personal choice, but the city needs to be there with a plan B to ensure that accidents don't happen. So I think that is more or less, which is not little, but very interesting. Thank you so much, Mariana, Damla, and Ege, for being with us today. We will produce short videos. We will produce some infographics and web article to share this very interesting experience with the rest of the world. So over to my team to close this, and thank you very much to all.